We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity Top Gun Sales Bootcamp Training. Let's dive in. Nora, what you got?
I had 20% yesterday.
Okay.
So is there a way that you can get more diverse clients without or I've been targeting a specific group with, a list of businesses. Is there something out there for other groups that I could do that with to where it's not just simply cold calling, but I'm sending them marketing pieces along with the calls, or what's the best way to
Yep. Good
do that?
question. So there's something called SIC codes, Standard Industrial Codes, and NISC, I think. And so the SIC is every business in America has been assigned an SIC. They don't know it necessarily, but so I think I might, there's new stuff out there, so I might not have it perfect, but the concept is right. And so let's say there's a 5-digit number. And so construction companies have this 5-digit number. You can just go on the internet and just say, what's an SIC for construction companies? And it'll tell you. The first 3 digits are construction companies. The last 2 digits are what kind of construction. So it's a hierarchy of what it is. And so, Dreamscape has an SIC. It's, they're a construction company. They do residential roofing, whatever. And so those last 2 digits, those last 2 digits are going to be what type of a company they are. Same thing with banking. There's different types of banking. And so you can buy list. Life Masteries has a list. That has SIC code. So if you take that database and you go ahead and do a query on it, a query is where you search based on certain things. You can buy database lists that are going to be, do you know what industry? And this is what Amy was talking about yesterday. Do you know what type of industry you'd like to have?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So if you said accounting, if you said accounting, you can go ahead and buy an accounting database list of businesses, or you could go ahead and work with Life Masteries and they can go ahead and do it. And so you can say, I want accounting firms that specialize in doing taxes or in, doing bookkeeping or in doing auditing or whatever their specialty is. I want to have them to be they have 10 or more employees or 10 to 20 employees. This is the size of company. So it's what's called in marketing demographics. So it's the characteristics of that group of people you're going after. So it's your avatar. Who's your ideal avatar? What Russell Brunson, he says, in the book.com secrets which is one of the best marketing books out there. I mean, I would get it and I would read it. It's really cool, easy read, and it makes a lot of sense. And so it's like fishing. So what kind of a fish do you want to catch? Okay, where am I going to find that fish? What bait am I going to use to catch that fish? And what's the experience going to be once I caught the fish for them and for me? And so in box 6, grouping people and messages, you can do that. Typically, like when I was in sales, I had to do everything. I didn't have Todd Duncan. He was big in the mortgage industry, and he said you either have an assistant or you are an assistant. And so, you've got at least one resource that has said, what can I do to help Nora? So that's an assistant that you have. You don't even have to pay anything for it. You just get access to it. And so if you're not using that individual, if you're not utilizing that individual, that gives you leverage. So you have additional work that can be done. There's work that can be done by that individual that will give you additional leverage. And so the key is to get it into a system where you're doing something consistently, whether it's email marketing or whether it's social media or whether it's direct mail or whatever it is that you're looking to do, you need to do it consistently, probably at least often in a lot of situations, it's for 3 months because of the delayed action result principle. You plant today, you get something tomorrow or the next day or a month or 2 or 3 months in the future. You don't, like in golf, you don't want to putt short. So you putt long because, same thing is true in Bach 5, where implement 10 plus strategic strike. If it takes 10 contacts to make a sale, you do 9, you've done 90% of the work. You won't earn anything if it takes 10 contacts to make a sale. So you don't putt short. You don't stop short. You have to keep going. So in answer to your question, yes, there are things that can be done for sure. The key is how do you get it to where, if we're doing, $10 an hour activity, this is a natural law. If we're doing $10 an hour activity, that's how much we're going to earn. We just will. It's a natural law. And so, we want to do 25, we want to do 50, 100, $500, $1,000, like on the business X-ray. What's your highest dollar productive activity? You want to do that. But to do that activity, there's a whole bunch of $10 an hour or 15 or whatever that is, dollar an hour activity that needs to be done. Somebody needs to do it. You get it down into a system and then you work really, really hard to get that off your plate. I'm probably like Tony Davis. I tried to go ahead, and when I was building the sales force, I asked for a marketing assistant. He said no. I wanted to take things away from the salespeople and have it done in house, so they're focused in on sales. He thought salespeople, if you took things away from them, he thought that they wouldn't appreciate it and that they wouldn't take that time and reinvest it into something, higher dollar productive activity. Why is it that I thought very different than that? I mean, if somebody takes work away from me, like Luke is having people take work away from him. So, like Tony's just like, no, Mark, we're not going to do it because salespeople won't go ahead and reinvest their time they won't say, oh, you saved me an hour here, or you 3 hours there, or 5 hours there. They won't do it. Why did he think they wouldn't do it? And why did I think they would? And who's right? Who's more right, Tony or me?
They're both right.
And how is Tony right?
Because if he were in sales, that's what maybe he would have done.
I don't know. He was a pretty hard worker from everything I could discern. So it was his experience, maybe. So his experience, his observation is salespeople, they're just lazy. They just are. And they always are going to try to game the system and they're going to go ahead. They're not going to be appreciative and they're not going to be thankful and they're going to take advantage of you. So why did I think that? Yeah, no, you help them out. Like a totally different philosophy. Why did I feel that?
Your experience as well.
No, definitely not. It's me. It's what I would do. I mean, especially if a company's paying for something, shoot. But I was raised, not in my home, but I was raised early on in sales where you had to pay for everything and you had to do everything. And man, if a company helped you out, you're just thankful and grateful. But I went ahead and paid, I was at, I paid for 50% of my expenses. Like if I had an idea advertising, the company picked up half of it. I was thankful and grateful for that. So it's my own mindset. Like other people, that's how they think. They're going to be thankful, grateful. They're going to go ahead and invest it. It's smart. Like if you're not going to put it into higher dollar productive activity, well, that's just stupid. So I just thought other people would be like me. And what have I learned in the last, 30 years?
Other people aren't necessarily like you.
And so what do I do with that?
I don't know.
I train other people to learn how to think like I think because it works in business and sales. I'm pragmatic. Like I'm continually, like Patrick said, meta knowledge, meta intelligence. So a lot of people and their personalities, they're controlled by their personality. They think the way they think. They don't have a choice. They're like animals. They don't have a choice. They just do what they do. They don't have a choice in the matter. And so I'm like, what's to achieve everything to one is to achieve my life vision. I have to get better every single day. I have to learn. I have to grow. I have to find out what's working, what's not working. To do that, to find out what works, I often have to do a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't work. That's part of learning. Don't be stupid, and Mark. And so there's something that it's a fire in the belly. It drives me. And so, Kenny, what you got?
I don't think I have anything. Not that I-
Luke, what you got?
How do you like? We are having challenges with scheduling and then always making sure there's work where I am, work there. Yeah. How do you learn from, or is there like something out there, a system or something where we could apply to our scheduling, or is that our scheduling? Do we just have to figure that out as far as some days we go under, some days we go over. It's always shifting. It's hard, or it's
When did you go ahead and come up with that question?
this morning.
Okay, before the podcast, or just during
Yes,
the
or
podcast?
I knew that was what I was going to ask.
Okay,
I didn't know. Like,
are you familiar with thinking, not knowing, the principle?
yes.
And did you apply that principle?
No.
And so, Katrina, my 30-year-old daughter, when she was 5 years old, I was out in the garage. And again, this is internalization. How do you internalize? How do, how do you have this natural law go ahead and change your life forever? This story change your life forever. How do we change at a heart level? And so people will tend to be very arrogant about the way they think. They think the best way to think. Their way of thinking, that is the best way to think, which is really a stupid way to think. There's always a better way to think. It's just hard finding it, and it's impossible if you don't try different ways to think. And so I'm out on the ladder in the garage on the ladder, and here's little Katrina come up. She's 5 years old. She's like, "Daddy, what you doing?" I said, "Honey, what do you think Daddy's doing?" And she says, "I don't know." All sweet and kind and nice. And I said, "Well, honey, Daddy didn't ask you what you thought, or what you know. Daddy asked you what you thought. If you don't think, sweetheart, just be honest and say, I'm not thinking today, Daddy." And she kind of giggles and laughs and she, okay, Dad, I'm not thinking. I'm like, well, if you're not thinking, sweetheart, then we need to spend more time. We need to look at your schooling, your homeschooling, and figure out because you need to, honey, you need to think. She's like, okay, Dad. I said, what do you think Dad's doing? And I was putting something in the attic of the garage. And she said, I think you're putting something in the attic in the garage. Okay, that's good, honey. You're thinking. And so often in coaching and mentoring and in leadership, we give people the answer and we contribute to their laziness. And so as a general rule, you make people think. Like you always share your thoughts before I share my thoughts because the key is for you to be thinking. Your idea might be better than mine, but because you think I'm a coach and I've got all this years of experience, you think when I give you the answer, you just naturally stop thinking. So the one that's least experienced, the one that's least confident, the one that's most lazy, I don't know, the one all of the one for all of those, that person should share their thoughts first. And then the next level up there. So what do you think the answer is to that question?
Probably experience gaining, like looking at the past and looking at each different job and figuring out like from knowledge or yeah, experience.
So there's reflex. As soon as you ask the question, like Cheryl's sister, who we rent the coffee connection from, she said lazy moms do all the work. Like when she said, I'm like, whoa, that's good. Lazy leaders give all the answers. But there's a reflex. As soon as you ask that question, there's a reflex that I had. And the first reflex is Luke, is he thinking about it? Is he just is he being lazy? Is it a reflex being lazy? So there's something I would have done as soon as I went ahead and, thought that question, saw that situation. There's something I would have done.
What's that?
Nora, do you know what it is?
Not sure.
Kenny, do you know what it is?
What was the question?
There's something I would have done. Luke asked the question about scheduling. There's something I would have done.
Not sure.
So I was raised like all three of you. And so, well, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't. Were all three of you raised being Amish? Were all three of you raised without the internet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
me too. I didn't have the internet. like, I didn't have the internet until after I was out of college. So I was, I don't know, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25 before the internet, so I didn't have it. So what I've had to do is I've had to go, Mark, look at the internet, do a Google search, Luke, on it. You just search and say, I'm in construction. And now with AI, it's even better. I'm in construction and I'm having problems scheduling. What's the top best thing? And go through the ads and go down further or something. And, you find something on that. With AI now, there might be something that you could go ahead and create that has a scheduling software. It doesn't replace the brain. Like how am I scheduling this? How am I doing it? And it doesn't go ahead. It probably hurts in disciplines. Like in good to great, disciplined people, disciplined thinker, discipline in taking action. You, you know, they say that the fish rots from the head down. there's a high probability, that, your team will never be more disciplined than you guys are. They may never be harder workers. And so you've got to work hard. You've got to think through things mentally. You've got to say, what's the faster, more efficient way? I mean, when I'm working on our property or anything, like if I'm on our property, I'm thinking, how do I, like the steps that I take, how am I more efficient? Like everything is about efficiency. Like Elaine saw one of the workers on our property, and all she did is just walk by him, saw him, and she said, I know why he's inefficient. But she has a similar personality to me. It's efficiency. How do I do things in the most efficient way? So it's that analytic driver. So the analytic driver is a potent force. So you want to listen to them immensely. You want to learn to think like them. So I've had to learn to think like the amiable. I've had to learn to think like the expressive. So what it does is there's synapses in the brain that connect, that give us the capability. Was it easy? It wasn't hard, or it wasn't easy. It was brutally hard. But I needed to do it for my life vision, and it's helped me tremendously in business. Anybody else have anything else? So here you have some really cool things. So you guys probably ought to look into this here. So Shuaib and his team are working on. So here you have, how do you have 114%? I don't know. People are calling you more than you're calling out. I don't know. Same thing. Luke had 168%. Okay. I mean, it's possible. It's unusual, but it's possible. And so you look through this. So he's working on getting these top headers so each of you could have different things there. But this here gives you tracking. So we know based on the delayed action result principle with Nora, when she's up here, she got sales. If she's going down here, there's a risk that her sales are going to go down. And so with each of you guys, and what you're doing there, and Nora is going to tend to be more conservative than Luke. So Luke's numbers are going to tend to be higher. At least part of Luke's numbers are going to be higher. Why is that?
I'm an expressive versus her analytic.
Yep. So she's not going to give herself, points. I mean, I'm pushing Nora. You can count for that. I don't know if I can. So she's going to. Luke's going to give himself points because he wants the dopamine hit. But as this develops, Nora's dollar per point is going to be higher than Luke's. So Luke, he's going to get the dopamine hit by putting more points, but it's going to catch up to him. It's going to catch up to him because his points are going to be less. His dollar per point is going to be less because he's going to have more points. And that's the beauty of the PPA. It's seeking to reveal truth. And so you can take on more points if you want to, but at some point, down here at some point, it's going to be, I don't know, dollars per point, like how many dollars per call, how many dollars, per talk to, how many dollars per, this sale, this, and so there. So these things, like Tom Coons, he says, know your numbers. So I've been after this, I've been after this thing for decades, and you guys are recipients of it. And so, anybody else have anything else? All right. If you have any questions, connect with your art mentor, your buddies. Always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.